Our weekly immigration news roundup is brought to you by the law firm of Figueroa and Associates. For consultation on any immigration or legal matter, please call 855-768-8845. That's 855-768-8845. For full stories and more immigration news, visit www.theimmigrantsjournal.com. That's www.theimmigrantsjournal.com.
Hello, my name is Mary Campbell, legal assistant at the law firm of Figueroa and Associates, and your presenter with this week's immigration news. How immigration crackdowns are disrupting America's farm workers. Immigration crackdowns across the United States are reshaping the agricultural workforce, leaving farmers short on labor and immigrant workers living in fear. As federal enforcement intensifies, crops are going unharvested, communities face economic uncertainty, and the nation's food supply chain is showing signs of strain. What was once an invisible backbone of American farming, immigrant labor, is now at the center of a growing crisis that pits security policies against the realities of food production. Fear, absenteeism, and hidden costs. At the heart of the impact is fear. Under the Trump administration's intensified immigration enforcement, farm workers, many undocumented, report being afraid to leave their homes, drive to work, or even visit public places. Absences at work have increased. Even when enforcement actions don't target fields directly, the threat of raids or random stops has discouraged legal and undocumented workers alike from showing up. In California agricultural regions, up to 70% of farm workers reportedly stayed away from work during certain enforcement periods, significantly disrupting harvesting operations. Crops left to rot, farmers in distress. These workforce disruptions are not abstract, they translate into real damage in the fields. Several farms across California have had to abandon harvests, as there simply weren't enough workers to pick crops or maintain operations. Seasonal fruits and vegetables, which require timely labor, are particularly vulnerable. Farmers express alarm that the labor instability poses threats not only to their yield and revenue, but also to broader supply chains and food availability. They warn of rising costs as labor becomes harder to secure. Legal workers, advocates, and the ripple effects. The crackdown's impact extends beyond undocumented laborers. Even those with legal status have reduced their public presence, altered routines, or avoided travel, suggesting that the fear is contagious. Advocates also warn that aggressive immigration enforcement may undermine labor rights. Some farm workers report being more vulnerable to exploitative working conditions when they can't safely assert their rights, either because they fear retaliation or because they believe interaction with authorities could lead to immigration consequences. Policy pushback and possible adjustments. Recognizing the agricultural sector's dependence on immigrant labor, some political actors have begun discussing or implementing measures to mitigate the damage. President Trump has spoken of shielding good, reputable farmers from the harshest consequences of enforcement. There have been pauses in enforcement in certain industries, like farming, meatpacking, food service, to reduce disruptions to essential sectors. Still, critics argue these measures are inconsistent and insufficient, especially without broader immigration reform. They call for durable policy solutions, such as expanded legal pathways for farm laborers, egg guest worker programs, protections for vulnerable workers, and safety nets that allow undocumented workers to work without fear. Looking ahead, what's at stake? The current situation leaves America's food production vulnerable. Key risks include reduced availability of crops, particularly labor-intensive fruits and vegetables. Increased prices for consumers as supply tightens. Economic stress in rural farming communities, many of which rely heavily on immigrant labor. For farm workers, the effects are deeply personal. Ongoing stress, loss of income, social isolation, and escalating anxiety. While enforcement is one piece of the administration's broader immigration agenda, its ripple effects are proving far-reaching and, in many cases, violent in consequence. Conclusion: the agricultural sector's success and many farm workers' livelihoods depend heavily on immigrant labor. As immigration crackdowns intensify, The question becomes whether policy can adapt fast enough to prevent farmland, harvests, and human lives from being damaged beyond repair. Reform advocates suggest that balancing enforcement with compassion, not only for moral reasons but for economic stability, may be essential.
Our weekly immigration news roundup is brought to you by the law firm of Figueroa & Associates. For a consultation on any immigration or legal matter, please call 855-768-8845. That's 855-768-8845. For full stories and more immigration news, visit www.theimmigrantsjournal.com. That's www.theimmigrantsjournal.com.